Today's lesson is all about spicing up the pentatonic scale. So the scale that I'm going to show you today, I like to call the pentatonic add 2 or the pentatonic add 9. So that is the note that we will be adding in to our familiar box 1 pentatonic today. It's the 2nd or the 9th. When guitar players look to spice up the pentatonic, when they start to get a little bit bored of playing the same ideas again and again, the first scale that they learn, or the first note to add in, is the blues scale. So many of you watching this video will be familiar with the blues scale. It sounds like this. This is in the key of E minor. So that is certainly the first scale that I learned that was outside of the pentatonic box. One extra note to add in can make all the difference. Today I want to look at one of the scales that isn't as common, but it's still really effective. It adds a lot of emotion to your guitar playing and can make you sound a lot more melodic. Guys like Dave Gilmour, Joe Bonamassa, Eric Johnson use this little trick all the time, and it's adding in the 2nd or the 9th to those 5 familiar pentatonic notes. So let's have a quick recap of the pentatonic scale. Again, I'm going to do this in the key of E minor. Everything's going to be in the key of E minor today. Nice, familiar guitar key. So pentatonic scale in E minor, we've got 12 to 15 on the low E string, 12, 14 on the A, 12, 14 D, 12, 14 G, 12, 15 on the B, and 12, 15 on the high E string. Now, when I learned how to add the 9th in, that was a game changer for me. It was kind of like that missing note that you've been searching for and you finally found it. A lot of guitar players, and including some of you watching this video, will have stumbled across this note by mistake sometimes and not really realise why it's working, but it does sound great. It's a great note to hit. It's a great note to add in. I'm going to show you a few different concepts and a few different ways you can get it into guitar playing. But first of all, let's take a look at the scale. I'm going to add it in to E minor pentatonic box 1, and it's going to sound like this. So the first place you're going to find it is on the low E string. So we're going to do 12, 14, and then 15. The A string is the same as your E minor pentatonic. So we've got 12, 14. D string, 12, 14. When we get to the G, we're going to go to 11. So we're going to step out of this kind of 12th fret anchor with your first finger briefly. So we've got 11, 12, 14. You can use your pinky finger there if you prefer. And then we've got 12 to 15 as normal on the B. And then on the high E string, we've got 12, 14, 15, like that. And then we'll descend. Hopefully you can hear already, just by running up and down the scale, it's added a lot more emotion to the playing. It sounds a little bit more melancholic. There's certainly a vibe to it. So if you can capture that and add it in, it sounds great over moody blues, backing tracks, classic rock. You can throw it into some jazz as well. It sounds really cool. Let's have a look at some practical applications for how you can add this note into your playing and make it sound musical and soulful. So the first way I like to do it is to use this note as a target note. So what I mean by that is I'm going to land on that note. I'm going to end my phrase on that note. So check this out. I'm going to just run up the E minor pentatonic scale and I'm going to stop on that fret 14 on the high E string. So we've got this. Like that. That's pretty cool. So just a little improvised lick at the end there, but it sounded really nice. So I'm now going to play a little bit and I'm going to start targeting that 9th, that 2nd, on purpose. I'm going to try and finish all of my phrases just targeting, just landing on that note. So here we go. you can see I don't really use the low E string one that much. I probably should do. I should probably practice that a little bit more, but my favourite ones are definitely on the high E string and on the G string. So even if you just add that into your playing, that's really cool. Let's have a look at some other fun ideas we can take and we can practice. The first way that I started to incorporate this note into my playing was by using a semitone bend, because I just thought it sounded killer. So let's have a look at that on the high E string. So we're going to bend the 14th fret on the high E, and we're just going to go a semitone. So you're targeting, you want it to sound like the 15th fret, that G. You're actually bending the 2nd or the 9th up to the minor 3rd. So we've got... few examples there of how you can get that into your playing. Let's do the same thing, but this time I'm going to do it on the 11th fret of the G. So I'm going to bend that note a semi. So I'm trying to make the 11th fret on the G my target pitch. I'm trying to make that sound like 12 on the G. So... that's really nice. It sounds really cool. Again, bending that up to the minor 3rd. If you're playing over an E minor or the tonic minor chord, you're actually targeting one of the notes in the chord. So it's going to make it sound really nice to everyone's ears. So another way I like to add that note in is by introducing some new triads in that scale. So I'm going to show you a few triads and a couple of arpeggios that incorporate that note, incorporating that 9th, that you won't find if you're just playing bog standard pentatonic. So again, the first one we'll start with is on the high E string. So you can do this cool little D major arpeggio starting on that 9th. So I could do a lick and kind of arrive into that one like that. So another one is this B minor shape. We've got 14 on the high E string, 15 on the B, and then 16 on the G. So I'll do the same thing. Like that. So, and if I add them both together, it's so interesting just by adding that one note to the scale. I'm now going to show you a couple going off of the 11th fret on the G that I do quite often. So first one is this B minor arpeggio. So I like to slide from the 12th fret down to the 11th. That's my 9th, and then I'm going to play the 12th fret on the D, and then the 14th fret on the A string, which you can do with either your ring finger or your pinky finger. So that's a really cool melodic idea. So a variation on that is this B minor triad here. So we've got like that. So that's 11 on the G, 12 on the D, and 12 on the B. Nice, kind of like a triangle type shape, I guess, if you like looking at patterns on the guitar. I also like to create pull-off sequences and other fast lines using that additional note. So now, because you're adding in an extra note on 3 out of those 6 strings, you can get faster sequences than if you're just doing the 2 notes per string pentatonic shape. One thing we can do is this descending sequence from 15, 14, and then 12 on the high strings. So a little bit more overdrive on to help that carry. I could do it as a fast picking sequence. Bending that 9th fret up to the minor 3rd again. You could do the same thing on the G string. So I'm going 14, 12, 11. I could even add it in across 2 strings like this. So I'm adding in the 15th fret on the B down to the 12th fret on the same string. You can even start to create runs based on the notes that you just added in. So like this. Another cool idea I like to do with that 2nd or that 9th is to slide directly into the bend on the G string. I think this sounds really slick. So to do that, I'm not picking the bend. Just to simplify, I'm going to go 14, 12 on the G, slide down to the 11, and then straight away, I'm bending. You have to be really accurate with that. I'm bending that note up a semitone. So you can do the same thing on the high E string as well. So I think that sounds really melodic and really interesting as well. You don't hear a lot of guitar players do that. I'm now going to do a demo to a backing track, and I'm going to try and get in as many of those ideas as I possibly can. It's just going to be a short example of me adding in the second or the ninth to my playing, and hopefully you can get inspired by this performance. So that just about wraps up this lesson on the pentatonic add 2 or add 9 scale. I would encourage you to learn this scale in all 5 positions in all 12 keys. So figure out where you can add the ninth to your other 4 pentatonic box shapes, and that instant emotion will be added to your playing. I hope you found this lesson useful today. If you did, please give the video a like, hit that thumbs up, ring the bell to get notified of my lessons in future. Leave a comment. Did this help your playing? Did you enjoy the concept? Has it spiced up your playing? Has it made it more emotional and more soulful? Check out my website, culturetoguitarteacher.com. Consider booking a lesson with me. I teach both in person and online. And until next time, my friends, take care, enjoy guitar playing, and thank you very much.